product, an interesting tool called K9ERP. And it's interesting for a couple of different reasons. I think Amit, is it Amit or how do you say your name, Amit?
Amit,
Amit?
Amit, whatever
Well,
easy.
I'm from Wisconsin, so I have trouble with anything that's more than 3 letters long. So sorry about that. So Amit is going to talk about a couple of different things. One is it's got a pretty slick ERP capability that's very interesting. But then the other part of it that is intriguing is that there's also a website element where K9 can put together a website for that business, but also then connect it in, I'm going to say, I'll probably, slaughter it in my own way, but I'll say in e-commerce fashion. But there is an ability to connect that website to the ERP tool that's actually very interesting. So we'll probably talk about this in kind of 2 different ways, maybe just because of the different functionalities, so that people can understand that. But again, very interested in learning more about the K9ERP tool and tools and what they have available. After we do the presentation, the good folks at K9 have ponied up some premiums, I think, and I'll let Amit kind of talk about that a little bit, and we'll do the spin the wheel of, I call it the wheel of death, but I've been corrected so many times that's the wheel of fame because we're happy and cheerful at NetVPro. So we'll spin the wheel of fame for fun and prizes. And then I think at some point here we're gonna throw a little poll out, so to speak. Is it up right now? So yeah, check out the poll, and we just kind of want to get a sense of custom developed apps. This is something that we're interested in understanding a little bit more about, and if people are using that. And custom can mean anything in the sense that that's not just out of the box and slapped in. So we want to know if people are using those types of applications. So that's something that I would like to perpetuate forward during the call so we can kind of get a sense of the types of things folks are using in their business.
Majority said yes.
What was that?
Majority said yes.
Majority said yes. So it's an interesting thing, and in that vein, this should be an interesting presentation because Amit can do some pretty neat stuff with their tools. I'm going to use that plural. So with that, I think that we have the housekeeping things done, and I'll turn it over to Amit and Dan, and maybe Amit give a little bit about who you are and the company, and then Dan can throw into the technical piece. So the floor is yours, Amit.
All right. So, yeah, my name is Amit Weisserberg. I'm from Florida. We're in Hollywood, Florida. And it's like, the weather is actually nice weather over here compared to others, like the rest of the year. But we have a unique software. We have a ERP. ERP is a CRM, accounting, inventory, all in once, pretty much. And we do custom development, custom software, and we do websites. That's what we do. We do pretty much one-stop shop program software development. And I will toss it to Dan. Then we'll talk a little bit about the ERP part, and Barry will talk a little bit about the website. It's 2 different sites. The website is the artist, the website design, and the ERP is more hardcore programming. Dan?
Yeah. Before I get started, actually, I have a little presentation to show. My screen sharing is blocked. Can you please enable me so I can share my screen?
Should be good to go.
Good. Oh, perfect. Okay, there we go. And I will bring it up, and there we go. Does everybody see my screen?
Yes.
Okay,
yes, we
perfect. So I'm going to hand you guys off to Barry for a moment. I want to introduce her. She's in charge of a lot of the customizations with things like websites and the end user interaction kind of thing. And I wanted to kind of introduce her and have her start off. Barry.
Hi, everybody. Dan, if you can flip to the next one, if you don't mind. So I know Amit gave you a little bit of an overview, but this is kind of our main core business. The majority of everything we do is focused around small businesses because there's just not enough attention paid and not enough good attention to help these guys get moving and stay on top. So like they were saying, we do K9ERP is our main proprietary flagship software, and it kind of everything else spins and connects off of that. And then on the other side, we do websites, most of it as websites as a service, which we'll talk about a little bit later. And then the custom development and programming kind of ties both together in many different ways. So now I'm going to flip back to Dan, and he's going to talk about K9ERP.
All right. So yeah, I'll go through over here and I'll share what we have, and I'll explain kind of the technology backend and why we developed K9ERP and why it makes sense for everything that people are doing today, right? So let me jump ahead and I'll show you something. So K9ERP, if you guys have seen a demo with it, it's an web-based ERP application that we developed in-house. It's something very unique in that it's completely web-based. There's no client installation necessary. They just need to go to their login page and they get into it. And it's an all-in solution as well. That's another unique thing. We don't nickel and dime or cheat people, basically. They get everything that we offer all in one price. And one of the key pieces of that is how K9 is built, right? So it's designed to be, first of all, user-driven and company-specific driven, okay? So by that, we mean there's a lot of customization options available. There's a lot of ways to dissect data within K9 and get presented in unique ways. So things like a dashboard that you see over here, which is very typical of a lot of applications, give you a fixed set that you can work with. And I'm going to bring this up as an example because the same thing applies for everything. Fixed set versus flexible. So with a fixed set, you get what you get and you don't get upset. That's basically the methodology. With our flexible example, you can create, for example, on dashboards, your own dashboards using any data within the system. And we do that with providing an open API that I'll show in a little bit, that we have, a mix of front-end access and back-end access that allows you to pull whatever data you want, however you want. So when you see a dashboard over here, all of this is infinitely customizable and gives, the user the views that they're looking for. And that's something that you can't really get with other applications without going into development, which is a word that we're going to use a lot over here. And it can mean a lot of things, either, very big money or very small money. And we try to keep it on the small side. To that end, other things that are very relevant to what I want to get into is things like a workflow. So every organization has their own secret sauce, their own way of working, the things that, have given them success over the years. And when they're looking for an application, all right, whether it's an ERP application or the front-end website that lets their end users customize something very unique, things like that, it's something that, they developed over time. And now when they're looking for an application to translate that rule set into, they're usually stuck, right? They're usually looking at an off-the-shelf application with something, let's say, QuickBooks or something industry-specific to them. And they run into one of two issues. They either run into the situation with QuickBooks where it doesn't do what they need to do. So they're either changing the way they work to mold themselves around what QuickBooks can provide, which is not the ideal solution, or they're buying something industry specific that usually will answer the requirement that they have, but at a very high cost and very limited functionality because it's only designed to answer that one question. The third route that they take is development. And that can be very expensive because now you're either developing for an existing application that may not have been designed for that connection, or you're asking somebody for a very small company, usually these, these custom software, these targeted software development companies, or targeted software companies rather, don't really have an open door for development. So the customer's kind of stuck between those worlds. So what we've done with K9 is created that whole infrastructure and that whole ecosystem to where they can do those developments. And when you look at something like this in our unique rule set, this is kind of the opening of the door for that, where they can come in there, create these custom rules, create their own rules based on anything that they want, including custom development. So for example, they can create a custom column in K9 and then create rules based on those columns, which is something that it sounds simple on the surface, but it's not something you'll see in applications out there. They're very limited in their functionality, whereas K9, we open that floodgate up for everything. And one of the ways we've done that is with our multi-level API integration. And what we've done with this is we've made sure that when we develop K9, we develop it from the ground up to be the center of this ecosystem we're discussing. So we're not taking a legacy application that we happen to have before and adjusting it, which is what a lot of companies are trying to do today to catch up. We also didn't create a stripped down aggregate software, which is what we've seen on the other spectrum of that, where people are just creating a very empty shell, and then you have to go out and add all these pay-for applications and kind of hope that they all work together. We create a very strong backend ecosystem developed on full Microsoft SQL with a full REST API front end, and we publish that full API for developers and customer use. And basically what that means is, apart from a full featured set of applications, our full ERP, which includes, full financial management, GAAP accounting, tracking your products all the way to FDA required levels for things like lot number recall and things like that, sales order management, customer management, integrations that exist already in the software with, let's say, the shipping companies, right? FedEx, UPS, those guys, credit card providers, Office 365 integrations, integration with Constant Contact. I mean, there's a huge list of built-in integrations that are ready there, native, ready to go at no charge to the customer. If they have something more unique, we have this full API capability that gives us the unique position where we can quickly and cheaply develop apps or connect existing apps to K9 in a way that nobody else can do. And let me show you a little bit of what I mean by that.
Dan, can I jump in for a quick second?
Sure.
So if, let's say, for example, you were a business who had maybe a call center and you had a screen popping app on the agent desktop, you could integrate and you were using Canine ERP for inventory management. You could use your custom developed screen pop app and connect. The API would allow you to connect in with that inventory management for that type of an integration.
I'll give an example of something we've actually done like that. Remember, K9 is, the holder of record for things like inventory and transactions. That's kind of the core. So we don't really recommend or see a use to integrate K9 with another inventory management. Wouldn't make sense. But one integration we've done is very similar to what you discussed with the screen pop with things like a phone system, right? We had a customer that wanted, they had a call center, and we do have a service call module in K9. This company went above and beyond that with a front-end portal that was very unique to them. They were in the telecom industry. They had some very, very unique feature sets. So we helped them create that front-end portal. We actually created it for them. And customers could issue tickets and things like that. They had an account structured in there. And when they would call the sales rep, call extension, whatever, 3 for support, the sales rep would get a pop-up, hey, here's the customer calling, and right away be brought into their latest service calls and all their history and all that great stuff. And again, they could have bought, it's a perfect example because they could have bought a specific call center type of software just for that. And then, had another software for the financial part of that. Just think about it. This is a telecom company. Usually if somebody's calling, it's going to be about their service or their bill, right? Those are the 2 big things that people are going to call about. So if they're calling about their bill, to have that nice pop-up over there for the service tickets and then have to look in a separate system for the financials, you see the gap that occurs there. And when you're training an end user who's, let's be honest, they're call center employees, they're not, going through a tremendous amount of training, you want to keep that kind of thing to a minimum. So by having, that beautiful front end that they did for their customers tied into the back end of K9 and having that CSR have all their information, the tip of its fingers, it changed the dynamic of their business. It lowered their overall costs and it just made things a lot smoother. So I know that was a long explanation to your question, but things like that, that's our bread and butter.
Yeah,
and we're able to do that with our API.
Okay, very good. That was exactly what I was looking for. Thank you.
Sure. And we've also done a lot of, nice beyond the scope integration. Right now, everybody's sitting at home. Not a lot of people are going out. There's a lot more e-commerce going on. And the ramp up to this has been tremendous. And we've created, applications with things like Shopify, WooCommerce, BigCommerce, all those kind of guys. And again, these are native integrations. We don't charge for them. It's not like, adding a third-party application in the middle that charges you and transfers data. This is completely native, and it's a 5-minute setup for the end user. They're loving this. We just rolled out an update to this with advanced functionality, and it's working really nice. And as a byproduct, I just want to point out one more thing. We came up with a very unique way to handle sales tax. So if you look at many of our customers and any customer out there before that was either doing sales tax manually or paying for a provider like Avalara or TaxJar, we've eliminated that charge from them. So, what's Avalara cost? $150 a month. That's extra money that is no longer necessary to pay, plus an integration they don't have to deal with anymore because it's all done through API. So that's kind of, again, the structure of K9. And to that end, I just want to show you a few more things that we did and what really makes us unique. So, of course, Corona, we all know what's going on with that. And this really shifted a huge dynamic because there was no real testing applications out there a year ago. It just didn't exist. Anything that it had involvement with any kind of testing procedures was an EMR system, an electronic medical record. And to convert those applications to just a pure testing functionality, it was a huge, huge development just because of the red tape involved and the customer and the software requirements and hardware requirements and, all those kind of things. So just to give you a little bit of background, we have our servers are all located in the US. Our developers are all in the US. So right away we overcame, one of the big key hurdles of dealing with medical, having everything in the US. We developed a pure testing platform for them, as well as several applications for the providers, for the patients to view the results. It's all done with the highest level. It's called FHIR. It's it's a communication standard for medical records. So we're 100% compliant with any medical regulations out there, with any kind of government regulations. We were able to do this very quickly, very efficiently, very cheaply, I might add, and bring this to market in a time frame that was just unheard of. And we've been actually, this application of ours has been reported in the news in Florida as, really kind of the savior for a lot of organizations, because before we came along, their time from test to result was 2 weeks. We brought it down to, as soon as the lab is done. And we're able to do this again with K9 as the backbone. You're seeing here a nice, website with the front end and all that, but we were only able to do it that quickly because we use K9 as the back end for this. And again, that's a very unique and calculated advantage of the Canine ERP platform. Okay. And of course, like I mentioned, we do have applications on here. Because of the way we're structured, once again, we're able to do this very quickly, very efficiently, and really very highly customized, right? We have the ability to make these, whether it's a desktop application, an iPhone app, and Android, whatever have you, we're able to do these very, very quickly and very efficiently. And of course, one thing that I do want to mention over here before I hand it back to Barry is our website integration, because we do this a lot. This, for example, is a customer that before they came to K9, they were looking at a custom website. And, roughly speaking, they got something like, the usual, $10,000 bill to create a website, take pictures of products, and all that kind of good stuff. And it still didn't meet the requirements for things like availability and, dealing with their wholesale customers versus retail. It was missing a lot of key pieces. So if you look at what we've done over here, and if you see just, for example, in-stock quantities, additional stock arriving, things like that, the images that you see here, all of this is all pulling from K9. So it's not a simple website. It's a very deep integration where they can have not just the, common type images, but their availability based on parameters pulled from the system. The calculations that K9 is coming up with to give them availability, they're able to present those over here. They're able to create different ordering methods for their retail versus wholesale customers. They're able to do all these things that even with the $10,000 custom website was not able to do. And they can manage this on the fly. There's very little ongoing cost with this. Barry will get into how much it's costing every month, which is very minimal. And again, it puts us in a very unique situation to, to take a phrase, churn and burn, and put out all these, great websites for people. And again, a very low cost and very quick implementation, and very unique and powerful feature set that will let them grow as they need more product availability. And to that end, I'm going to pass it back to Barry over here, who can get into a bit more of that detail how we go with it. Barry?
Yeah, thanks, Dan. So, like Dan was saying, we were able to do this, and it took a huge burden off of them because they have salespeople that are spread out all over the country, and keeping them updated. They're a wholesaler, so these guys are going into furniture stores. They're dealing with um, interior designers, so they need to have availability because they need it now um, to set up whatever designs or whatever they're doing. So all of this pulls live. So if I buy those 16 and you come in an hour from now, it'll show you there's zero. So that's been extremely beneficial to them. Okay, Dan, you can jump. So yeah, so we're going to talk about websites. Just, do we have a time? Because I know she said we only had 20 minutes.
Right, it's okay, keep going.
Oh, okay. I just wasn't sure.
Yeah, we try to be somewhere in the 30-minute for the whole thing. So
Okay.
30, 40. So we'd take another 10 minutes or so.
That's fine. I didn't want to go over. Anyway, so like Dan was saying, we do all of that, the K9ERP and all the customizations that sit on top of it as part of a web service that we offer. Dan, next one, please. So what we figured out was, like Dan was saying, these guys were quoted like what, $10,000 by some other people, and it still wasn't what they needed. So what we do is we create a website as part of a service, as opposed to a one-time fee. And so we charge them $199 a month, and we design it, we host it, we keep the maintenance, we do all the updates, the security, backups, we give them the SSL if they need help setting up their Google My Business, and a whole other litany of things to make sure that, one, they're current on their security, which is most important, two, that their website reflects who they are, and three, that it reflects to the world in a way that is current and will show the best light on them, which I'll explain that a little bit. Okay, jump, Dan. Okay, so the thing that we kind of go back and forth was they want it to look pretty, but we also need it to look nice for Google, which means Google sees the words, people see the pictures. So the one on the dogs is ours. The other one is just an example I found. But for instance, their website for their deli, it shows a lot of pictures, which as a person, that's great. I can see what they have, but there's no words. So as far as Google is concerned, that's an empty page. So we try really hard to make sure that we find that baseline compatibility and share that between the two. Like the dog one has, pretty pictures of dogs, but it also gives you a clear explanation of what they're doing and has the words that, when Google goes through and they're looking for these dog trainers, it specifically says, we are dog trainers. So that's something people don't always realize that, and it's so important. Dan? Okay, and neither one of these are ours, but they're good examples. So both of these are delis in Hollywood, where we are. The one on their mobile site, that thing is probably 3 years old, and you can't read it. The menu can't read it. If you try and blow it up, it goes all kinds of wonky off the screen. Whereas this one, the Schwartz's Deli, they made it so it's mobile friendly. It fits on the phone, and their menu, I can easily go through and see what that means. And especially now, like people are looking for new restaurants because they're sick of the same stuff being delivered all the time, or pick up, take out. And if they go online, and like I said, this is a very basic example, but if they're looking for the deli and they see one versus the other, first of all, the one looks more modern and maybe a nicer place. But second of all, they can actually read it without much effort. And so it encourages people to come to them as opposed to get frustrated and just quit and say, I'm going somewhere else. Dan? Another thing is, back to Google, they really like mobile sites, and more, if your site isn't mobile friendly, it's not going to come up. It's going to keep getting pushed down, down, down. So using the two examples we had before, we searched for deli in Hollywood, Florida, which Hollywood Deli comes up first because Hollywood Deli. But you'll see the Schwartz's is the second one, and JP's is nowhere in that top list. On the Bing side, we put this one because Yelp is showing them as the #1 bagel place in Hollywood, but yet they're all the way over #5, and I couldn't put the whole thing down. But if you try and find their actual website here, it's not on the first page whatsoever, and they're not showing on that map because it's not, the search engine sees that it's not really valuable to the person that's searching, especially on a mobile phone, because the words aren't friendly and it doesn't display right. So they're being punished, basically. Dan? Okay, and this is another thing that we find people don't always understand. You can own 10,000 domains, but if you're not doing something with them, you're either just showing nothing. So if you send somebody there or somebody accidentally goes to that site, it looks like you have nothing. You haven't gotten your stuff together yet. Or what happens a lot of times is wherever you bought your domain from, if they go to the domain and it's not developed yet, they'll have all these ads for other companies that are similar. I'm not sure how the anime got in that list, but they do that, and then they'll send somebody off to somewhere else, and then you may never see them again. So there's a lot of steps you can do that we like to remind people, because these are little things that you don't always think about, but you literally could be losing business off of this.
Hey, Dan.
So
I'm sorry to interrupt. Dan, can you open the participants and admit those in the waiting room, please?
Oh, sure. There you go. I didn't know I had that ability.
Oh, that's okay. Thank you so much. Sorry about that.
yeah, so like I said, I mean, this is part of the service we provide, because most people, you don't even think about this unless it's something that you do or somebody specifically told you. So we'll build like a landing page to start, so, or an under construction or coming soon, or somebody wanted a dancing elephant. I don't know why, but that way, until your site is actually developed, you're having a presence that says, hey, we know we're not there yet, but we're coming, as opposed to a list of ads for somebody else. Dan? And then another thing with the maintenance, we recently had a company come to us because their website had been hacked, and horribly hacked. People were getting directed here and there, and when we went in to see what was going on, their store had disappeared. Content was moved and missing and all kinds of weird things. It took us a day and a half to get all that stuff cleaned out for them. And the reason for that is because they actually had that file manager plugin, which, because it wasn't updated and because they didn't have security happening on their site, they were able to go in and put all this malicious stuff all over the place. And like I said, they basically ate the store because the store plugin was gone. So that means all of their store items gone, and a bunch of other issues that were going on. So we went in and cleaned all that out for them, and now they're part of our larger security service, I guess is the way to put it. So we monitor all of those things daily, and we do a large deep dive scan every week on the weekend, just to get like under the surface and make sure that we're doing well. And all of our plugins and content is updated at least twice a week, because they're constantly putting out updates. And WordPress itself, they've probably had 4 updates at least this year, like major ones. And so if you're not updated on the WordPress, then vulnerabilities that existed that WordPress had fixed in their next release leave you wide open to that. And like everybody else right now, Corona, hackers are just sitting at home twiddling their thumbs saying, haha, how can we get you? And it's become like a really bad situation if you're not under control. And a lot of people think, oh, well, I'll just do my website and it's fine, just let it sit there. It's not really an option anymore, because you have all these people ready to take over, and they're happy to do it. So these are just 3 examples that have happened recently of major hacks. There's a lot more that have been minor, but all of these were affected by plugins that weren't updated for the most part. And these people either had to spend a lot of money to fix it, or they literally just lost their site and had to start over. So it's something that we always like to point out to people, because it is so important. Dan?
Hey, Dan.
That's all I have.
Oh.
Oh, sorry.
No. Thank you very much. I didn't mean to jump on you there. I apologize for that. I just had a couple of questions that are probably pretty quick to answer, but I just wanted to ask. So one of the questions I have is, if a customer decides to use this, or someone decides to use this tool, do they have the ability to, I'm just going to say, white label it, or brand it with their colors and logos and those types of things?
So what do you mean by the tool? By K9ERP itself?
Yeah, Canine ERP itself.
So look, when the users, our customers, log into K9, of course, they have their logo, their look and feel, right? I think just on the bottom it says powered by K9 ERP. They have their look and feel. If they do something completely unique, like let's go back and look at here we go, like Oliver, right? You don't see K9 as far as like their customer knows. It's completely
Right.
their own site.
Let's see here. I had written down notes, so
So the idea is you can white label and you can make it also customizable.
okay. So like company colors and those types of things, they can do that.
Absolutely. Okay. And you can do white label.
Then I had another question, and it just occurred to me while we were looking at this. Can you do one without the other? So let's say maybe I start with the Canine ERP product, and then I want to build into a website, or I need a website and I'm not sure about the ERP part, but I will want to do that in a year. Are those things that you can do one without the other?
Yes, you can. We've combined the existing ones. Of course, I'll be honest, it's easier if you start with K9 and then build onto it. That's just a reality. But yeah, sure. It's possible.
Then I had another.
The website, if you're like, let's say you are a chiropractor, or you are like one office lawyer, you don't need ERP, so of course you can get only the website.
Okay.
There's no reason you have to get both of them.
Okay. And then another question I had is, so do you guys, or do you have like an ETL tool, or let's say I'm working on an existing platform, just as an example, in a past life, I had an app that was done on PostgreSQL. So PostgreSQL, kind of, I don't know if I want to say a little or unknown database, but something that wasn't common. Do you have tools, or do you have the ability to do the conversion for me if I'm in that situation? Do you have a tool set or an ETL capability to get the data that's in my current, maybe obscure database into
So
your tool?
That's a great question. We get asked that quite often. So here's what we have. Because K9 is a more robust system than what's typically out there, right? If you recall, one of the things I mentioned is for a gap accounting system. So gap accounting has things like account numbers, right? We have a number for every customer, every vendor, every part, every account in K9 has a code and a description, right? And if you look at some of these older applications, let's say the more simpler ones, where most people are coming into K9 from a simpler application, things like, let's say QuickBooks as an example, they don't have those requirements. So when you move over to K9, you now have all this new data that you didn't even have the option to have it before. So can we bring stuff over? Okay, let's look at the simple form, and I tell you yes. So now you're going to have all the junk that you had in QuickBooks that you don't want anymore brought in. You're going to have the system, a little confused because we're, have now account numbers that you didn't have before. And maybe they want to have the ability to choose their own account number schema or something along those lines. So the short answer is I can give you a template, and there's a import wizards that can be brought in from flat files or CSV. It gives people the ability to clean things up and bring them in a lot more efficiently. And it's a very, very quick process. Now, if you're talking very obscure, we've had people that came up to us, I'm not kidding, a few years ago, forgot the name, but I'm trying to blank now, but it was a DOS-based application that they've been running forever that was custom developed. It did its job for 20 years, and now it's time to move over. And in that case, we have a development team. I have programmers. I did have one, and this was, they had a tremendous amount of data, and we were able to bring it in. and just be going directly to the database. History is a little bit of a different issue. That's a whole different topic that we can discuss separately. But the short answer is, we work with the customer, we come up with a solution, and in most cases, we're able to bring in data from whatever current or even obscure system you have.
And one more point of maybe question/clarification. So do you actually host the website for $199 a month? I mean, is that included in the, I mean, is that, and then with that, is there a term on it? So like, is there, to get the $199 a month for the hosting, do I need to commit to 3 years, or how does that work?
So the $199 a month, it's including your hosting, including the SSL, include the backup, include the everything, and you commit for month to month. So you don't have to. Most of the people that charge you like $2,000 before you even see a website, you have to commit. And why would I give you $1,500 or $2,000? I don't even know if I like it. So for us, the worst case scenario, you can lose $199 if you don't like something. And if you don't like something, we will change it. As long as you pay the $199, we're going to change it until you're going to be satisfied.
Okay. Awesome. Are there any other questions? This was a very good session, very good information. Again, I'll take everything and I'll put it out on the NetV Pro YouTube channel so that you can reference this if you want to take a look at it and review what we went over. But thanks, guys, both Barry and Dan. Good information, and Amit too. But like I said, it was good info. Very interesting product. I think that it's interesting to me that it's kind of a different way to think about the whole integration between an ERP tool and kind of the front end web piece and hooking that together. So thank you guys very much for that.